Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Carl and I'll be talking to you about the bit more about the sexual harassment and how it made me feel through that process, that time that I went through with the work colleague and how the managers dealt with that. That's in a separate video which I'll put in. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is how it made me, how it made me feel, and how it affected me. So when on the first day, the I didn't really think about it on the first day. The, the the bed was in the corner, and then he decided to move the bed to directly where I was sleeping. So he, yeah, and then I didn't really think about it too much. A few of us thought it was very weird that he moved the bed. Um, so yeah, we thought it was weird. And then then during the training and during the time that I was eating and going to the dorms and stuff, that's where he was stalking me and going from A to B, and then evenings when we're talking and we're having a conversation and having a debate and listen to it, like each other's views and on specific subjects. And he always shut me down, and he always it was very nasty ways talking, ways approaching. It wasn't really being very civil. It was just his way or the highway, and I felt very uncomfortable. And it's just telling me what to do. He was a very abusive. He just used abusive talking behavior. I just can't explain it. It's very, very dark, very toxic. And when it just seems that he wanted to control the conversation to fit his needs all the time. He was right all the time, and no one else's opinion counts or anyone's views on anything. And he just says, oh, well, Google says this, and he always Googles stuff, but he just never had his own opinion, and no arguments to back up. And we said this to him, and he just shut me down. I was giving valuable, open conversation advice. He didn't need to take it, but he didn't need to be very abruptive. Say, oh, how dare you, or you can't talk to me that way. But I was very neutral. I was never disrespectful. It's just making aware of how he's making people feel in a certain way, without coming across too forward or too patronising. And I'm very, very civil, very laid back, and very charismatic and very sympathetic. And he exploited me he just saw me as more the weakest person in that room, so he just continuously targeted me, and then made sexual remarks and saying, oh, yeah, well, you and your partner split up. Well, yeah, well, you might as well F men instead. And that's very disrespectful. And his sexual views and anyone's sexual views is totally separate. And he enforced things onto people that is not necessarily appropriate. And self-inflicting is a criminal offence in the UK for self-inflicting stuff onto an individual, because you're invading that person's privacy and you're not treating them with dignity or respect. And then and then like during the training, he was always around me, he's always behind me, he's always beside me, and wherever I moved, he moved, and I felt very uncomfortable, and I felt on the first week I was absolutely fine, and then as things going on, he's very push and very targeting at me all the time, and he influenced his toxic behaviour onto me, and he just suppressed me so much that I was unable to think what I was doing, and that really affected me a lot. And I feel if the managers and that dealt with it effectively when people reported it, and then I reported it a few weeks after, when I was feeling that I was starting to be late, and managers starting to question why am I late, and it's just what I don't need to explain myself. That the managers already knew what was going on, but they still wanted to know where I was, which is very unfair, and that they put me at a disadvantage. But on the emotional aspect, it just imploded over amount of time. So within a month and a half, it just I just felt very my mood low. I was very low in my mood. I just didn't have the energy, and I was always tired. I wasn't sleeping. It just got to the point where and I was it just I just felt very angry, very anxious, very depressed, and all the emotions compacted all in, and I felt I was going through this long dark tunnel, which just never ends. And the managers was not even supportive. There was like one manager said, "Oh no, it's well we're dealing with it," and I said, "Well, okay, so you're dealing with it. How are you doing it?" They did not have an answer to that. Oh, we got a ways to do it. I was like, "Well, how are you doing with it?" There was not answering my question. And then when I was walking back, I said to my friend, I said, "Look, right, I'm doing it tonight." And he went, "What?" I said, I'm moving out that room tonight." So it struck at midnight, got all my stuff out, and then moved it into another room, which was empty and wasn't used. So I just moved all my stuff in there. And then the next evening, the manager said to me, "Oh, why do you move rooms? You're not allowed to, and this and that. You should ask us. Well, yes, I have been asking to move. Oh, we'll come up with something and blah blah blah. And that it just took so long that another week went by that you didn't do anything. So when does it end? So I had to take matters into my own hands to go into another room, and the hygiene was very poor. What they had in that room, and you could smell it in the corridor. I'm not going to go into detail, but it was really, like, it stank really bad. And then on that on a Friday night, he was very abusive. Is self-inflicting. His it is always his views, and he did not take anything what I said into account. I understood what he's talking about, but he wasn't understanding my needs and boundaries. And he got very aggressive and very abusive. And I said to him, I'm not going to discuss this even more. Anyway, I want to talk to this now and blah blah blah. And and none of the managers did nothing. So I had the documentation, wrote everything down, what happened and everything. And it ended up with 10 pages long. And then I think when I finished, when they dismissed me from the role, it went to 19-20 pages long. It is ridiculous amount I had to write up. And yeah, I do feel for the women that went through this sort of thing, through sexual harassment in the workplace. It is not nice, and no one should go through it, and it should not be tolerated. And employers need to take this seriously. And I want to make more awareness about these issues and concerns and change society. And we can't change people, but there's always consequences to those individuals that do not follow the legislation or the law. And it's there to protect everyone. And those that have protected characteristics like ADHD and autism and all those in that bracket, sex, race, religion, etc., is all covered in the Equality Act 2010. And also the Workers' Rights Act. They've breached the Workers' Rights Act. They breached the health and safety of the employee as well. The Health and Safety Act 1974. And yeah, so it's just really trying to be more open, because I believe in change, and if change needs to happen, because now, as I've been through this, and where I've been treated throughout my employment, where I've tried to resolve things, and it led to tribunals. So the first stage will be ACAS. Employers will say, no, we don't negotiate settlement. And then the certificate's issued, then they'll submit a claim to the tribunal. And then they say, oh well, we're not doing any financial settlement, but in the long run they're incurring more legal fees for the insurers, their insurers, because they're not going to settle early. They'd rather incur more fees than settle it there and then. If they settle it, then fair enough. But most employers will say, well, okay, so what? We haven't done anything wrong, this and that and that. But they always deny it, and they're always hiding their lies, and their lies will come out publicly. And the employment tribunals are public, and when my tribunal happens, I'd like this to be all public to everyone, and because this has to change and this has to stop. So if you so if you like the content, like and subscribe, and also relating back to my other video, how the so with how